No official changes to Christmas rules for now. Boris Johnson keeps things as they are, despite COVID's rapid rise. The cabinet split over bringing in new restrictions. According to the PM, the situation's finally balanced, but that could change at any point.
We will have to reserve the possibility of taking further action to protect the public and to protect public health, to protect our NHS.
In the last few minutes, the Queen's cancelled her family Christmas. The palace says it's taking a precautionary approach. Also tonight, the wine and cheese work meeting that's prompted Downing Street to vehemently deny it was a party. Jailed for life, the killer caught in a high-speed police chase after stabbing his mother and murdering her partner. And
hey, baby.
Hi, oh my God.
The babies who were blown away in a bath during the Kentucky tornadoes, but survived.
This is the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Good evening. The Prime Minister's tonight ruled out any immediate new coronavirus restrictions for England, but Boris Johnson said the government's monitoring the situation by the hour and won't hesitate to take further action if necessary. Some, though, think it's already too late to bring in the kind of measures that'll stop the spread of the Omicron variant. And the Prime Minister knows he'll face a battle from his own party to try and get anything approved. It came as the latest figures showed more than 91,000 new infections across the UK. That's up 60% in a week. And there were 44 further deaths, a slight fall over the week. Here's our Deputy Political Editor, Anushka Asthana.
It was beginning to feel like Christmas, with decorations up, shopping underway and plenty of mulled wine. But hanging over it all, that looming COVID threat again. And a feeling of Groundhog Day, with no decision yet from the Prime Minister, but still no guarantees.
Unfortunately, I must say to people, we will have to reserve the possibility of taking further action to protect the public. But in the meantime, what I would say to everybody is please exercise caution as you go about your lives.
The Sage Minutes are very clear that early intervention matters and that the earlier you intervene, the shorter the restrictions can stay in place. That means now. Why aren't you taking their advice?
We went, as you remember, Anushka, as soon as we saw what was happening with Omicron, and you will remember it was very controversial, and there were many colleagues in Parliament who said, no, this goes too far. But we went ahead with Plan B. There are still some things that we need to be clearer about before we decide to go further.
Keeping things under review may help the Prime Minister ease frustration on his own side after a Cabinet Minister resigned over the issue.
I couldn't support certain policies, most recently on COVID restrictions and Plan B. And if you're a minister, you have to support collective responsibility, you have to support decisions of the government, and I couldn't, so that's why I had to leave.
But Boris Johnson is also facing pressure from scientists in a different direction.
Our line in the sand has always been the point at which the NHS can't cope, hasn't it? And I think we're very rapidly going to be approaching that point.
In the meantime, families are making their own difficult decisions.
We're all being very overcautious. We're not going out now, are we?
Mel Perry is isolating with her 9-year-old twins Otto and Lola so they can spend the big day with their grandparents.
We did plan to do a lot, didn't we? We were going to go to, normally go to Van Hayes shopping centre and see all the Christmas lights and the animals and everything, don't we? And we would go out and visit friends, and there's so much that we can't do this year that we would normally do. And Santa, we've not seen Santa this year.
How much do you want to see your grandparents?
A lot. Quite a lot.
And that is what everyone wants, to see family and friends this Christmas, but that could once again depend on this pandemic. Anushka Astana, ITV News.
Well, more restrictions wouldn't be welcomed by many hospitality businesses in England who are already dealing with a big drop in customers, and some shopping areas too. Figures from the weekend show a dramatic drop in footfall. Bosses say they need government support now, or thousands of sites will be forced to close, as Rachel Younger now reports.
If retailers were hoping Santa could deliver a spending frenzy in the days before Christmas, their dreams of a high-flying end to a turbulent year have been dashed by advice to avoid crowded places.
It's normally simple. Christmas shopping is something you either love or you loathe. But this year, there's the added complication of trying to protect both our own health and the shops and businesses we rely on.
I don't feel the Christmas spirit this year. You can't take the mask off, you can't do it really properly, so it puts you off a bit.
I think it's important to consider and stuff, like masks and all that kind of stuff, but, you know, you also can't let it dampen your spirits, right?
Yeah. But it has been a disappointing few days. On Sunday, the number of shoppers was down by a quarter across the UK compared to the same day before the pandemic hit in 2019. Footfall across the whole of last week was 19% lower than the same week 2 years ago. And that's one of the factors hitting hospitality so hard, with a 40% fall in takings across the UK compared to 2019. At this Bristol restaurant, passing trades dried up and many bookings have been cancelled.
We've already had the restrictions earlier in the year, which means we've been open for a lot less time. So, yeah, we were hoping Christmas was going to be another bumper payout for us, and it's just not there.
This pub in London even emptier because hit by staff getting COVID and customers staying at home, they've reluctantly closed until January.
To shut, never mind it being a busy time, I mean, we would never shut out of choice. But if your hand is forced, as in this situation, it really feels like we were left with no other option.
In Watford, the regulars are determined to keep Bloom's Yard coffee shop going, but they'd like the government to do the same.
Last year we had furlough in place and the business rates were frozen for a period of time. None of that's here at this point, so I'm hoping that the government come up with something.
But in the shopping centre outside, it's not all doom and gloom.
Whilst people might be shopping less often, they're certainly on a mission when they're shopping. So actually sales are really very good. And we're certainly getting some excellent sales from our retailers, and some are even saying they're better than 2019.
But with growing concern that new restrictions are coming, it's likely to be a bumpy ride ahead. Rachel Younger, ITV News, Watford.
For more on the pressures facing Boris Johnson and what measures, we'll talk to our Deputy Political Editor, Anushka Asthana, in just a moment, Anushka. But let's go first to our Health Editor, Emily Morgan. Emily, what will the NHS make of the government holding off from introducing new measures?
Well, I think there's a real mixed reaction this evening. I think most of them want really clear advice. They feel they're not getting it. But others in the NHS say they are simply watching hospital admissions really, really carefully. I think there is real concern about London this evening, though. Transmission rates are very high. Hospital admissions there are going up. And in fact, nearly a quarter of all admissions in the last 24 hours were in the capital. There's also real worry about staff sickness, so that is concerning them. Anything that can slow transmission down would also help that. Some health chiefs I've spoken to today point out, though, that past experience tells us what happens when decisions are left too late. With cases so high, they want the government to take pre-emptive action to ensure the NHS isn't overwhelmed in 10 days' time, because we simply still don't know how severe this variant is. Others point out that actually it looks as if the vaccine is beginning to hold up, that things are manageable. There's only 7,000 people in hospital with COVID. This time last year it was 20,000. And it was pointed out to me this evening that with over 90,000 cases a day, though, does the government really want to sit back and wait and risk to see what happens to hospital admissions in the coming days?
OK, Emily, thank you. To you now, Anushka. What do you think the government will end up doing?
I wish I could give you the answer to that, but the truth is, Charlene, I'm not sure that they know for certain yet, and that is because there is a missing piece of data that they've been waiting for, and that is around severity. Is there any chance that this Omicron variant is less severe than Delta, for example? We were expecting that data today, which is why things seemed lined up for a press conference and an announcement, but it's actually going to come tomorrow or Wednesday. I know that in today's Cabinet meeting and on Saturday, there are a lot of ministers who say, hang on, on, let's not go for formal restrictions until we have the evidence. Lots of them very worried about the economy. But there is also some realism. Although they hope that that data will be good for them, one said to me, it is unlikely to be good enough to mean that we don't need restrictions in the new year.
Anushka, thank you. The Queen's taking no chances and tonight has cancelled her plans to travel to Sandringham for Christmas. She'd previously cancelled her traditional Christmas lunch with the royal family. Our royal editor, Chris Shipp, joins us now. Chris, what's behind this decision?
Well, the government might be holding off, but the Queen is not. I mean, most people know that the Queen, since the 1980s, has spent every single Christmas at Sandringham. It didn't happen last year because of COVID, and it's not happening this year. In the last half hour, Buckingham Palace announced that the Queen was taking what they called a personal decision and a precautionary approach, they said, to stay in Windsor and to cancel all of her plans to go to Sandringham. Now, it was in 2019 that the Queen was last there with the family, and up until today, that was still the plan, that she would be there with senior members of the royal family like Prince Charles and Camilla, like Prince William and Kate. That has now all been called off. We're told the Queen will still get some family members seeing her at Windsor Castle. We're not told which members or where they will be. But I think it reflects what is, for the Queen, a way of leading by example. She can see what is happening all around her. She can see what's happening in the country. She, for one, has decided tonight that her Christmas plans are now cancelled.
OK, Chris, thanks very much. Bookings are now open for 12 to 15-year-olds in England to get their second COVID vaccine. Anyone in that group can book through the NHS website if their first dose was more than 12 weeks ago. From the 10th of January, second doses will also be offered in schools with existing immunisation services. And Moderna has confirmed that a dose of its vaccine as a booster increases immunity against Omicron. According to lab results released by the company, a third dose increases antibodies by around 37-fold compared to 2 doses. Any positive news will be welcomed by the Prime Minister right now as he's battling fresh controversy over another Downing Street lockdown gathering. A photo reportedly shows 19 people in the garden of Number 10 during the first lockdown. Mr Johnson insists it was a work meeting, despite there being cheese and wine. Here's our political correspondent, Carl Dinnan.
The weather was fine on the 15th of May last year. People were growing familiar with the rules of the first lockdown. And that afternoon from Downing Street, the then Health Secretary reminded us of them.
You can meet one other person from outside your household in an outdoor public place, but please keep 2 metres apart.
But a short time later, this was the scene just downstairs. The Prime Minister, his future wife and several groups of staff enjoying cheese and wine. Today, Boris Johnson offered a brief explanation.
Those were people at work talking about work.
The Deputy Prime Minister was more fulsome.
It was a work meeting in the garden of Downing Street and that garden was used to conduct business.
How often do you have cheese and wine at your meetings?
But I don't think I, even in Justice Secretary or as Foreign Secretary, have worked quite in the conditions that the Prime Minister does.
Have you ever had cheese and wine at a meeting in Downing Street?
Not that I can recall, but...
So it didn't. That's why people don't think it looked like a work meeting. There's cheese and wine and the Prime Minister's wife was there. She's not a member of Downing Street staff, is she?
No, but occasionally Carrie popped in to check in on the Prime Minister.
But this leaked Downing Street video suggests that by December, staff knew a meeting for cheese and wine was not OK.
What's the answer?
I don't know. I didn't the party. It was cheese and wine.
Just be clear, it's not. Is cheese and wine all right? No. It was a business meeting.
I'm joking.
This is recorded.
And Labour say it's another damaging leak.
He's displayed open disregard for the rules that he's asked the country to abide by. And the important point about that is not that there's been one transgression or another. This could now undermine the public health message.
And with an investigation into various Christmas parties underway, the full damage may not yet be done. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Westminster.
Still to come on the ITV Evening News.
I had no clue at all where these babies was. All I can say is, Lord, please bring my babies back to me safely.
Reunited with their family, the babies blown away in a bath by the Kentucky tornado. And the Christmas lights display that got Jake royal recognition. Those stories and more after this very short break. Welcome back. A man who murdered one of Britain's richest men has been jailed for a minimum of 36 years. Thomas Schreiber was also jailed for trying to murder Sir Richard Sutton's partner, his own mother, Anne Schreiber. At his sentencing today, Thomas Schreiber's sister described how he'd destroyed everything. Ben Chapman has more.
When armed police smashed their way into a millionaire's mansion in April this year, they were to find the body of one of Britain's richest men. Sir Richard Sutton, a hotelier worth £300 million, had been stabbed several times. His partner, Anne Schreiber, was left paralysed after also being attacked by her own son, Thomas, whom the court was told had been consumed with hatred towards his own family.
This was a tragic and devastating loss of life, taken far too early, of a generous, loving, elderly man who only wanted to enjoy his twilight years.
Before the stabbings, Schreiber had visited his father's grave. It was the anniversary of his death. He'd found living at his stepfather's mansion during lockdown intolerable. Sir Richard had given him £100,000, but Schreiber couldn't stand him, telling friends he also resented his mother.
My mum is a gold-digging. She is a selfish, manipulative, toxic gold-digging.
When Schreiber was arrested after a high-speed police chase, he stabbed himself in the chest after again messaging friends to tell them what he'd done.
I've let my anger get the best of me, and I've killed my mother, and I've killed her partner, and this is the last you'll ever hear from me, and I'm so sorry. I had to take action.
As he was jailed for at least 36 years, Schreiber apologised in court to his family, saying he'd been a selfish, arrogant coward. But his sister said he'd taken a knife to their world, leaving her mother unable to hold her grandchildren and taking the life of a kind and generous man. Ben Chapman, ITV News.
On to some of the day's other news, and a warning, you might find this next footage distressing. A primary school teacher who was filmed kicking a horse has been sacked from her job after the clip was posted on social media. Sarah Moulds, who taught at Summerby Primary School in Leicestershire, was initially suspended last month. Mowbray Education Trust has confirmed she's no longer a member of staff. A man's been charged with robbing the Olympic cyclist Mark Cavendish. 30-year-old Romario Henry is accused of breaking into the Cavendish family home in Essex on the 27th of November. He appeared at Colchester Magistrates Court earlier today. And TV presenter Rachel Riley has been awarded £10,000 in damages after suing a former aide of Jeremy Corbyn for libel. A High Court judge ruled that a tweet posted by Laura Murray, in which she described Ms Riley as dangerous and stupid, caused serious harm to the Countdown star's reputation. Next tonight, the incredible escape for two babies in a bathtub. Clara Lutz was looking after her grandchildren when those huge tornadoes hit her hometown in Kentucky last week. For safety, she placed the 3-month-old and the 15-month-old in a bath with blankets, pillows and a Bible. But the storms were so strong, they ripped the bath from the house with the babies in it. And amazingly, the boys were found alive nearby and relatively unscathed. Sam Holder has the story.
329, can you get down here? We need help. We got someone under this debris.
Somewhere amongst this wreckage, they hope are two survivors.
In the bathtub.
We're looking for a 15-month-old.
Two babies, one 15 months old, the other 3 months. In the pitch black, officers and volunteers find a bathtub, and inside, what they had been praying for.
Central, can you pass this center?
Hey, baby.
Hey, oh my God! We're trying to get them to you.
Before the tornado ripped through their home, the boys' grandmother had wrapped them in blankets and put them in the bathtub. Beside them a Bible, a plea for a miracle against the almighty force above.
Next thing I knew, the tub had lifted
and it was out of my hands. I couldn't hold on. Oh my God. I was looking everywhere to see where the tub may be. I had no clue at all where these babies was. All I could say is, Lord, please bring my babies back to me safely.
The bathtub was picked up and thrown across the yard. But inside, first Caden.
Oh, it's okay.
There you go.
Good deal. Good deal.
And there behind in the yellow, Dallas. Delivered back into Grandma's arms.
Oh, praise God, Lord Jesus. I love you. Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Nearly 100 people died in the tornadoes that ripped through the Midwest. In the daylight, you can see their might. Nothing left standing. But somehow, a bathtub was enough to ensure this family could be reunited. Sam Holder, ITV News.
Just incredible. Cricket now, and England have been outplayed once again in the second Ashes test in Adelaide. Set a daunting target of 468. England's slim hopes of salvaging a draw were extinguished when Joe Buttler's brave resistance ended. England lost the match by 275 runs and now go to Melbourne hoping to avoid a series defeat. Finally tonight, raw recognition for the teenager who's turned tragedy into Christmas cheer. After Jake Skinner's sister Stacey died on Christmas Day 6 years ago, he decided to light up their house in her honour and raise money for charity. Every year, the festive display has got bigger and so have the sums raised. And now Jake's been given a special honour from Prince William for his dedication, as our correspondent Rupert Evelyn reports.
Lighting up the darkness in more ways than one. 14-year-old Jake Skinner isn't just adding some festive sparkle to his street, he's doing it for a good cause too.
It started around about 4 or 5 years ago, and I lost my sister back in 2015 on Christmas Day. And when she passed, her work returned to us a box of Christmas lights which she used to put on her desk, which gave me the idea to turn it into something bigger, which obviously it has, and it's just sort of gone from there. So it started off in memory of her, and then this year is unfortunately in memory of my nan as well, who I lost at the start of this year, and in aid of Macmillan Cancer Support. So it's in memory of two people close to my heart and for a charity as well.
6 years on, and it's his biggest show yet. He's raised thousands for charity and caught the eye of royalty with an award and a trip to Kensington Palace, where Prince William conceded his palatial display was nothing compared to Bristol's best.
I just said, I like your lights, but there's nothing compared to mine. He said, yeah, I don't want to beat you.
Jake is in charge of design and installation, but his dad picks up the electricity bill.
It is 100% Jake's work, all his own. If I come out and try and help, he goes mad. I get sent in.
The display has weathered storms and passers-by, but Jake's cat, Dave, is an issue.
Everyone is very respectful of your lights.
Yeah, except from the cat.
What does he do?
Likes to climb up on the reindeers and the snowmen and bring them down.
But they're up for now and staying that way, bringing some cheer to a street and a worthy cause. Rupert Evelyn, ITV News, Bristol.
And a cheer from us too. Right, that's it for now. Raggies will be here with your news at 10. But from everybody here on the Evening News team, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.